Hello friends, good afternoon and welcome to the EduSat network. Our topic of discussion today is the Sociology of Talcott Parsons, and for this very lecture we have thus in our studio Dr. Subhash Mohapatra, Associate Professor, Department of Sociology, Sri Venkateswara College, University of Delhi. Dr. Mohapatra's specialization includes social stratification, sociological theories and the sociology of India amongst many other specializations, and he has been teaching for the last 3 decades. Friends, with this very brief introduction, I'd like to welcome Sir to our studio and also request him to begin our today's lecture.
Thank you very much, Urvashi. It's a pleasure to come back to CEC-UGC network program once again. And while delivering a lecture on Talcott Parsons, I must have to tell that Parsons is mostly misunderstood for his language, for his deliberation, and for his outlook pertaining to the purview of sociology. Parsons was born in the year 1902 and died in 1979. First part of 20th century was the period of events and activities in the global social order. Bolshevik revolution in case of Russia, rise of Nazism, fascism, growth of modernity in case of West. All these events were the centrality of Parsonian sociology. And Parsons wanted to give a scientific direction to sociological theories. He immensely borrowed ideas from the writings of Max Weber and offered a critique to sociology of Karl Marx. I'll be dividing my lecture with a small introduction about the academic background of Talcott Parsons. Then I'll be reflecting on his major contributions to the study of social action, social system, and finally pattern variables. In the whole discourse, I'll be talking about the positive attributes of his theory of social system, which is founded on his understanding of social action, and how contemporary sociologists are reflecting, expanding, introspecting sociology of Talcott Parsons. It is generally said, when Parsons writes a statement, sentence, it becomes a paragraph. When he writes a paragraph, it becomes a chapter. When he writes a chapter, it becomes a book. Parsons is mostly criticized because of the jargons he is using in the domain of sociology. But he tells, I'm using jargons in sociology for a purpose. If a student of physics can only understand his subject, why then sociology should not be having its own terminologies? Therefore, jargons what others speak about, Parsons calls them as the treasure for sociology. Its own language, its own ideas, its own explanations can make sociology distinctive from other social sciences and from other branches of knowledge. He is borrowing concepts from different fields of social science, offering new meanings to them, making them the properties of sociology, and grounded on that, he develops his sociological ideas and sociological theories. None other than Talcott Parsons gives sociology the kind of originality that sociological theories are obtaining today. While discussing about his sociological theories, as I mentioned, in the first part, I'll be talking about his academic profile. As a child, when he's in school, Parsons had a keen interest in biology. But at the same time, he was also interested in philosophy. So he developed a juxtaposition between philosophy and biology while developing theories in sociology. He studied at Amherst College in United States, subsequently went to London School of Economics, and finally did his PhD from University of Berlin in Germany, and he taught sociology in Harvard University. During his illustrious career, he was exposed to a large body of anthropologists during his stay at London School of Economics. And most prominent among them were Bronislaw Malinowski, Evans Pritchard, and from their writings, he got to know how culture shapes human behavior. Therefore, inclusion of culture in his sociological theory is a product of his association with social anthropologist from London School of Economics. He was very much influenced by the philosophical writings of Immanuel Kant. Therefore, Kantian philosophy offers a foundation to his grand sociological theory. And he had a strong association with Alfred Weber, Marin Weber. Both are the family members of Max Weber. And along with them, he reviewed the writings of Max Weber and translated most of these writings of Weber into English audience. As a result, the popularity of Max Weber today can be attributed to the translation of Weberian work done by Talcott Parsons. I strongly feel that Parsonian sociology starts from where Weberian sociology ends. Therefore, one has to look into Parsonian sociology in continuity to the sociology of Max Weber. During his stay at Harvard University, he developed association with Joseph Schumpeter, who is known for his contributions to the field of developmental economics. And Parsons was greatly interested in the study of rationality and how rationality offers a foundation to modernity. When Parsons is writing his sociological theory, Nazism is getting a momentum in case of Germany. And Parsons considers that the ideology of fascism, communism, and Nazism are a major challenge to freedom of thought. He believes that capitalist ideology, liberal democracy, provides a strong intellectual space for deliberations, debates among the academia. Therefore, his sociology is a sociology developing in support of liberal, democratic ideals. Therefore, many times Parsons is being accused of being a conservative, but his conservatism is a product of his rejection to the radical ideology coming out of Marxism on the one hand and Nazism on the other. Let us first discuss about how he reflects on sociology. He tells fundamental concern of sociology is to develop theories which are universal and capable of encompassing all possible kind of social realities. Therefore, what we need to develop in sociology is scientific theories, and these theories should be primarily mega theories, the way they are being developed in the way of natural sciences. The problem of sociology is that every sociologist is developing his theory in contradiction to the theory of his predecessors. Therefore, need of the hour to Talcott Parsons is to develop a grand theory in sociology what sustains with changing times. And that theory will be providing a platform to explain how social life is organized, how various structural parts of the society are coordinating with each other, how social action and interaction among the people offer life to social structure, and how these structural parts in society, in coordination to each other, gratify to individual needs, institutional needs, giving a longevity, continuity to the society. Therefore, how society is structured, how individual and society are interconnected through institutions, how social life is greatly subjected to continuity are the central theme of Parsonian sociology. Parsonian sociology can broadly be divided into three parts. One, his study of social action. Second, his study of social system. And third, his study of social change or study of pattern variables. I will be reflecting on these three major contributions of Talcott Parsons. Then I will be reflecting on limitations to his contribution today. You know, social action theory of Talcott Parsons is coming as a rejection to the classical theory of social action. Durkheim never gives importance on social action because he believes action of an individual, if normal, it comes in conformity to the will of conscience collective. If an action stands opposite to the will of conscience collective, that he calls as pathological behavior or deviant behavior. Therefore, individual doesn't have any independence to manifest action on the basis of his own preference and choices. In a normal society, that is what is the essence of action study of Emile Durkheim. To its contrast, Karl Marx never gives credence to individual actor. To him, class action, collective action is more important than individual action. Weber, to its contrast, speaks about ideal type of actions. He speaks of traditional action, developing in conformity to customs, norms and values in society. Emotional affectual action, driven by human emotions. And rational action, based upon means and end calculations. Talcott Parsons, instead of studying action with reference to actors, he looks into general profile of social action. First, he speaks about how an actor in an action situation is negotiating with situational constraints and normative constraints and therefore manifesting voluntaristic action. He writes, action is voluntaristic so long as the actor is conscious about the situational constraints. Situational constraints will be involving race, heredity, climate, how these factors are influencing to the action of an actor. And he believes that every actor, irrespective of time and space, is rational. Therefore, being rational, an actor is using appropriate means for the gratification of his ends, that is goals. When the means don't correspond with the goals, being his rational once again, he is making modification in the means. If still goal is not attained, new goals are placed as against the old goals, which can be attained through the use of appropriate means. So therefore, an actor is conscious about the geographical condition, the social condition, economic condition in which he is placed, and also equally conscious about normative constraints like values, customs, norms which are regulating his behavior. Therefore, an actor being driven by cultural conditions, environmental and social conditions is spelling out his goal and using means in a prudent, rational manner for the gratification of his goals. Let me give you some example to make the things clear to you. A child who is living in the village is very much conscious of the fact that he has to place a goal which is achievable. He has complete knowledge about the local weathers, roads, other kinds of facilities available there. So being conscious about the environmental conditions, infrastructural facilities, adequate or inadequate, being conscious about caste values, being conscious about religious cultural values, being conscious about familial values, he is using his goal which is achievable. So he may be thinking about, pursuing a career in agriculture, carpentry, pottery. That is so different from the child living in the metropolitan cities who is intending to become an engineer, becoming a doctor, manifesting different kinds of behavior. So therefore, actor in a village context using rational means is achieving its goal that is different from the goal accomplished by a child who is born and brought up in the cosmopolitan cities, carrying different kinds of ideals and negotiating with different kinds of normative and situational constraints. Therefore, you find out a man into agriculture in the village is happy, and a man into computer engineering is also happy in case of urban industrial complex. So therefore, both the persons are equally rational, equally goal specific, equally conscious about their normative constraints and also situational constraint, and using appropriate means to gratify their goals. So, Parsons talking about that is dismissing the theory of the classical sociologists who are explaining in a dichotomous way traditional society as distinguished from modern society, because in modern society there is a persistence of rationality that is absent in case of traditional society. Parsons then goes on to explain social action from a generalized perspective. Like Max Weber, he tells action is always influenced by values. That means values are a guide to social action. And action must be having a strong root in the motives of the individual actor. Therefore, actor must be motivated to act. First comes motivation. And that motivation to act must be supported by appropriate values. Only then action will be possible. And a given kind of action, influenced by a given body of values, stimulated by a given kind of motive, offers a foundation to structural conditioning of the social system. He talks about all human motives that can be generalized into three fundamental types. One is cognitive motive. Cognitive motive is stimulating an actor for the gratification of his rational needs. That may be need to, acquire wealth, need to obtain an academic degree, need to win elections. So therefore, cognitive motive of a person is stimulating him to achieve something in objective way, in a concrete way, and that is supported by cognitive values. Cognitive values here means evaluation on the basis of objective criteria. The means one is using are supposed to be evaluated on the basis of objective criteria. For example, a child or a student who wants to obtain a PhD degree, whether working on the topic of research or not, whether the supervisor is correcting the scripts on time or not, whether these corrections are seriously incorporated or not, whether thesis is submitted on time or not. So therefore, objective needs guided by cognitive values provide a platform for the manifestation of what Parsons call as instrumental action. So instrumental action here means the action that is gratifying to human needs in an objective manner. Once objective needs of the actor is gratified, then second kind of needs make appearance, and that need he calls as cathetic need. Cathetic need is for primarily cultural happiness, aesthetic happiness, and that happiness one can get by visiting an art gallery, listening to a music, reading a novel, interpreting different kinds of cultural text. So, when one is interpreting a cultural text, attending a cultural program, participating in deliberations on cultural discourses, that kind of action never gives a man materialistic pleasure, objective pleasure. It gives a person aesthetic happiness. You know, the kind of pleasure one gets after watching a kind of movie cannot be evaluated on the basis of objective standard. One can only say, oh, what a wonderful movie that is. The evaluation is always made on the basis of subjective criteria. Therefore, actions are manifested by the actors to gratify objective needs, and actions are manifested by the actors driven by subjective needs or aesthetic criteria. Third kind of motive is psychological motive, evaluative motive. And Parsons tells everyone is greatly committed to self-appreciation. Therefore, every actor wants that others should be appreciating him. Therefore, in search of that appreciation, he is manifesting certain kind of behavior. So that behavior is known as evaluative behavior, evaluative action. The objective action known as instrumental, subjective action known as expressive, and evaluative action is driven by psychic criteria. You know, when a child is primarily becoming extra cordial to the parents, doing the homework, helping out mother in different kinds of family activities, the basic goal at that point of time is to get appreciation from the parents. And that appreciation makes a person extremely happy. So therefore, all possible kinds of human action, eating, drinking, sleeping, fighting, they can broadly be generalized into three fundamental types: instrumental action, expressive action, and evaluative or moral action. So now, if one looks into this Parsonian theory of action, one can see that when a teacher is reading a book, and reading that book is getting a kind of aesthetic pleasure, gathering new knowledge, developing a sense of accomplishment, that action would be expressive action. But when one is buying a book because he is having plenty of money, so that he can show off that I am a man of great intellectual merit. So, money is primarily giving chance to a person to buy a new car, a good house, or plenty of reading materials, books. So, that action will be known as instrumental action. But when a teacher is delivering his lecture and students are appreciating it, that action would be known as moral action that gives a person psychic happiness. Then Parsons goes on to say that instrumental action of the people in a given society, when institutionalized, that gives rise to the growth of social system. Similarly, expressive action of the people in a given society, when institutionalized together, that gives rise to the growth of cultural system. And finally, moral action of all the people, when institutionalized together, that gives rise to the growth of personality system. Therefore, he is shifting from action study to system study. Therefore, a social system is having component parts present within it, and each component structural part of the social system are nothing but the product of institutionalized action manifested by the actor, driven by different kinds of motives and values. Then Parsons goes on to say that these three different action systems, personality system, social system, and cultural system, do effectively negotiate with each other for the persistence and continuity of larger social system. How it happens? Here he speaks about mechanism of socialization and mechanism of social control. Unlike conventional sociologists, he never speaks about the agencies of socialization and how is socialization a lifelong process. Rather, he tells every actor is exposed to three kinds of socialization. One is social socialization, second is cultural socialization, and third is psychic socialization. Social socialization is a process by which an actor comes to know how he has to manifest his behavior in different social situations like family, kinship group, market, academic institutions, for the gratification of his goals. Therefore, an actor plays right kind of roles in the right situation in accordance with the expectations of others if he is appropriately socially socialized. Therefore, social socialization gives a person an understanding about the demands of the public institutions of which he is a part. Within family, how he should act and react and reflect, how he should be punctual in the school and colleges, how he should be doing his work on time, submit his assignments, write his exams, get a good score. So, one is very much conscious about it. Similarly, within bureaucracy, what is roles, responsibilities, interrelationship, an actor comes to know about it if he is appropriately socially socialized. Cultural socialization gives a person sufficient knowledge about values, customs, norms, obligations. Keeping that in mind, he is interacting with his counteractors in an effective manner. And psychic socialization is helping a person to control his anxieties, emotions effectively so that he can negotiate with crisis, address to the situations where tension is emerging, behaving properly at par with expectations of others. He is not losing out his temper when he is, experiencing failures in life. Therefore, appropriate socialization makes it easier for a person to play his roles effectively. And if a person or actor is not playing his roles effectively, befitting to the expectations of others, then mechanism of social control comes into prominence. There are three kinds of mechanisms of control Parsons talks about. One is formal mechanism of control, rules and laws. Informal mechanism of control, peer pressure, parental influence. And third is coercive mechanism of control. When formal mechanism of control and informal mechanism of control are not able to guide an actor to play his role befitting to the demands of the situation, then coercive mechanism of control is enforced effectively to regulate his behavior. That is how a society is subjected to continuity. Therefore, persistence of society, regulating the behavior of individual actor, coordination between actors and counter-actors, and how institutional structures are greatly operating, that becomes the central theme of Parsons' study of social action. Therefore, his generalized study of social action, explained in his book, Structure of Social Action, is giving a new dimension to sociological understanding of action, departing from anthropological study of action, classical sociological study of action, and psychological theory of human behavior. Now, let us look into Parsons' contribution to the study of social system. What a system is all about. Parsons makes a comparison between biological system and social system. He tells both the systems means a kind of unified whole where parts are related to each other. And Parsons goes on to say that a society can be converted into a system when it is capable enough to negotiate with its environmental conditions and maintain its self-sufficiency. Therefore, society cannot be converted into a system, one. And society is not a system unless until it is having self-sufficiency and it is not been able to negotiate with the environmental conditions where it is placed. Therefore, system is an organized whole, number one, characterized by self-sufficiency, capability to negotiate with environment, and effective negotiation between different structural parts which are present within the system. Therefore, these three conditions are inevitable to make a system complete. Then he makes a comparison between biological system and social system. Both are subjected to growth. Human beings are subjected to growth for limited period of time. Lifespan may be varying from 60 years to 90 years, exceptional cases 100 years or little more than that. But in case of a social system, growth involves larger period of time. For centuries together, social systems exist and social systems continue. Therefore, both are subjected to growth, but in case of biology, human organism, growth is limited to specific time span, but in case of society, growth is subjected to larger span. Then is body. Biological organisms grow within the structure of human body. Therefore, growth is there. and growth is just confined to the body. But in case of social organism, social system, territory of the society can be expanded through invasion, through voluntaristic expansion. Therefore, expansion is quite huge in case of social organism, but in case of biological organism, growth is limited to the basic structure of human body. Thirdly, if one looks into interdependency between the parts, they are significantly present within social organisms and also within biological organisms. But there is a difference. In case of biological organism, the failure of one part or subsystem, like respiratory system, digestive system, circulatory system, if one part of the biological organism fails to play its role, other parts cannot take up the role of the first part and the entire system collapses. But in case of social system, if economic system collapses or there is an economic meltdown, inflation, then political system comes forward to rectify the crisis present in economic system. When there is a crisis in educational system, government may pump more resources into educational system, appoint quality professors, change recruitment policy and admission policy. The freshness is inducted into a particular system through the contribution of another system, as a result of which social system is greatly subjected to persistent and continuity. And both in social system and biological system, every structural part is operating within its own boundary. For instance, in human body, respiratory system is having its own domain of control. Like lungs we can talk about, windpipe we can talk about. So, respiratory system is operating within its own parameter. Similarly, education system within social system is working within the parameter of schools, colleges, other agencies which are controlling the education. Therefore, each part of the society or subsystem is having its own boundary. They operate within their own boundary, maintain themselves effectively, and working for their survival. Therefore, each system existing within the larger subsystem is having mechanisms present within itself for its persistence, continuity, survivalism, and they have capability to negotiate with different kinds of tension, different kinds of anxieties which are evolving from within or coming from outside. After saying so, Parsons makes an important observation that every social system is grounded on a given environment. So, therefore, a social system is able to sustain if it negotiates with its environment effectively. And how that negotiation is taking place, giving longevity and continuity to social system, Parsons is discussing that in detail, what is generally called as AGIL theory or paradigm. Parsons speaks about A that stands for adaptation. Means every social system is adapting to its environment on which it is located. Second, every social system must have to have capability to identify its goals and to gratify its goals. Therefore, goal specification and goal attainment is the most important function of a social subsystem for its sustenance and continuity. A social system, in order to sustain, besides adapting to environment, specifying goals and attaining these goals, must have to have mechanisms present within itself for promoting integration between the parts. And finally, a social system must have to sustain if it has capability to go for tension management and pattern maintenance role, what he combinedly call as latency mechanisms for its continuity and for its continuity and sustenance. So, a social system, in order to sustain and continue, must have to have four distinctive functional prerequisites, pre-requirements present within itself. And what are these functional prerequisites? There must be mechanisms present to facilitate a social system to adapt with its environment. Second, mechanisms to go for goal specification and goal attainment. Mechanisms need to be present to promote integration role, and mechanisms to be present to undertake latency roles. Therefore, AGIL, standing for adaptation, goal attainment, integration and latency, are the functional prerequisites essential for making up a social system. If there is absence of one out of these four, there can be a society short-lived, but that society cannot be converted into a social system that is subjected to persistence and continuity for a long period of time. Now, let us analyze these four functional prerequisites in detail. You know, a social system can sustain and survive if it is having capability to negotiate with the environmental conditions. Environmental condition here is not just meaning natural environment. It must be meaning social environment, political environment, military environment. So how a society, how a social system is negotiating with environment, and that is primarily contributing for its sustenance. Take for example, there is a tribal community living in the forest zone. If in that forest zone land is not fertile, you know, it's not raining on time, which can facilitate agriculture. The tribes adapting to natural environment, instead of going for agriculture, they are going for hunting, gathering pursuits. Similarly, a tribal community living in the seashore, instead of going for agriculture, they go for fishing or they go for gathering. So, therefore, one finds out a sustenance of a particular system is greatly dependent on its capability to adopt and negotiate with the local environment. Similarly, I am giving you an example, another example, military environment. A social system can survive. Take the case of India. When India is suffering from cross-border terrorism, as a system it can survive. As a system it can survive when we are primarily making ourselves militarily capable to put an end to these kinds of cross-border terrorism, so that there will be no security threat to the country. So, therefore, this is economic environment, other is military environment, and third is political environment. When I speak about political environment, a system, in order to survive in a unipolar world, must have to have good connectivity with the politically powerful nations. Otherwise, collapse of different nations we have seen. Therefore, a social system in order to sustain must have to have capability to negotiate with the environment and restructure correspondingly its primary goals. A system in order to sustain, as Parsons speaks about, must have to have goals which can be gratified. When we speak about goal gratification, a society must have to keep its industrial goals, educational goals, demographic goals in mind, and mobilize resources, both human and natural, to primarily accomplish its goals, so that gratifying these goals, a society can be subjected to continuity, because people will be developing faith in society, because more industries generating more employment, more educational institutions giving quality educational knowledge to the people, as a result of which people will be developing faith and trust within the social system, and social system and individual actors will be negotiating effectively with each other, developing faith in each other. Tension, anxiety, contradictions, conflict between different parts of the society may be inevitable. To neutralize these kind of conflicts within a particular social system, appropriate mechanisms should be present, like education, legal institutions will be providing a parameter to the people pertaining to they should be playing right kind of role in the right place, in the right context, as a result of which different parts of the social system will be integrating with each other. For example, when there is a conflict between different organs of the state, the matter is reported to court of law. When there is a conflict between workers and the entrepreneurs, the matter is resolved through the intervention of court of law. So therefore, law is an institution, education is an institution, to a great extent secular religion is an institution which are giving moral control to the people, legal directives to the people to minimize conflict among various parts, as a result of which society is subjected to continuity or system is subjected to continuity. Finally, latency involves two conditions. One is pattern maintenance and second is tension management. If there is a tension, anxiety, apprehension, failures, within every social system there are present the primordial organizations like family, peer group, kinship based institution, which are reaffirming faith in the individual, giving him new motivation and direction to accomplish his goals. Tell individual to conform to the social system than primarily questioning and challenging to it. As a result, within a social system, there are present four different parts: organismic system, negotiating with the environment; personality system, concerned about goal specification and goal achievement; social system, giving importance on integration; and finally, cultural system, that is playing the role of tension management, pattern maintenance, what combinedly called as latency. Therefore, placing them in a hierarchical order, Parsons advocates how energy or resources for the sustenance of the system is coming from organismic system, then going to the higher systems. Higher systems like cultural system, social system, personality system, receiving this energy coming from organismic system, are giving guidelines, directions, commands to primarily other systems, as a result of which input means informations and energy are converted into output and that gives rise to the continuity of social system. And no part of a social system can work in an arbitrary manner without the endorsement of other parts of the social system. Organismic system brings inputs, and these inputs offer a guideline for the creation of needs by the personality system. So, personality system being socially socialized, culturally socialized, are not converting all inputs into demands on the higher system. So, personality system looks into the carrying capability of social system and cultural system, and corresponding to that making demands on them. And these demands made on the cultural system or on the social system are greatly interpreted. If they cannot be gratified, then again cultural system gives direction to social system, and social system gives direction to personality system to limit to its demands. Therefore, harmony, negotiation are offering foundation to the working of social system. That is the essence of Parsonian sociology. Parsons advocates as a theorist that each smallest indivisible part of the society is able to sustain itself and negotiate with its counterparts, because within itself there are present mechanisms to undertake adaptive role, goal attainment role, integrative role, and latency role. Therefore, every smallest institution present in social life can be converted into a social system, and each social system in negotiation with other social system give rise to the growth of larger social system. Take for example family. If in a family the man is employed, he is going out, making money available, which is resources, and these resources are used by the family to meet the educational needs of the people, members of the family, to entertain the members of the family, to make investment for the future needs of the members of the family. So, therefore, resources are coming from outside by one particular member of the family, and that resources offers lifeline to the family. So, when resources become more, because the wife is also working, children are also working, now they have become adult. So, when the resources are more, then primarily goals are expanded. They are planning to buy a new house, buy a car, spending more money on comfort and luxury. So, therefore, resources within the family is coming from outside. Then parents of the family are sitting together, determining the goal for the family. That goal includes children's education, goal includes investment on different rituals, goal includes buying a house or automobile for the family. So, therefore, input is present in the form of resources that is coming through primarily environmental conditions. Then these resources are gathered through adaptive mechanism, and that adaptive role is played by the father. Then goal attainment role is played by both father and mother. And integration, if the children are fighting with each other, so then children are sitting together, either they are finding out solution to the conflict or parents are intervening there. Again, integration is taking place among the members of the family. Then latency. When the child is going out of home to play, new place to study, mother is counseling the child. Don't fight with your friends. Go to the school on time. Do your homework on time. This is latency role. Therefore, within a small institution called as family, AGIL is present. And in a larger society also, adaptive mechanism, goal attainment mechanism, integration mechanism, and latency mechanism is present. Therefore, Parsons tells I give one theory to sociology, that is the theory of social system. You can apply that theory of social system to study a large society or smallest part of the society. A village can be a social system. Caste can be a social system. School can be a social system. Industry can be a social system. And India can be a social system, because within them all is present adaptive, goal attainment, integrative and latency mechanisms effectively. So, this theory of Talcott Parsons is known as sectorization theory. Any sectoral part of the society, micro, mesoscopic or macroscopic, if you dissect, you find out nothing, but there are present parts which are undertaking AGIL roles. Therefore, Parsonian sectorization theory is greatly talking about how social system is greatly subjected to persistence and continuity. Most of the critics of Talcott Parsons advocate that Parsons is more concerned about continuity of society than being concerned about violence, conflict and social change. There is a famous sociologist, Ralph Dahrendorf. He tells, conflict is endemic to social life, and Parsons is more committed to conflict resolution than being concerned about how conflict gives rise to structural breakdown and emergence of new structure coming out of negotiation, not coming out of effective harmony. When Parsons gives importance on persistence and continuity, Dahrendorf gives importance on regularized conflict, continuous conflict, routine conflict, which are inevitable part of the society. When Parsons talks about social change as routine social change, Dahrendorf tells, revolutionary social change is ignored in Sociology of Talcott Parsons. If you look into Habermas, it's very interesting. Habermas tells, value consensus is not automatic in case of human life. Parsons says cultural system gives values to social system, adopted by personality system. That is how harmony, integration is promoted in society. Habermas tells, value consensus is purchased through the use of coercion. State and its agencies are enforcing dominant values into the minds of the people. To bring that value consensus, people are put into prisons. People are coerced. They are forced to read the literature that is recommended by the state. As if that is not sufficient, to promote that value consensus, media is being used. Law is being used. Policing system is being used. Therefore, value consensus is not voluntaristic. Value consensus is greatly coercive in character. Therefore, Parsonian sociology of social action and social system undoubtedly gave a new theoretical direction to sociology, but not without much of criticisms. Parsons wrote his theory as a critic to the theory of Karl Marx. When Marx talks about revolution as foundation to social change, Parsons said, nothing to be worried about revolution. Society is subjected to self-continuity, therefore it is more or less sui generis in character. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the very interesting lecture. And friends, we shall be back with more lectures on topics of sociology. So keep watching. Have a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much.